melody, the words, you the chorus. You gladly laid your life down for us. For all the blessings that you bring, Lord of lords and King of kings, we will let our voices ring. You're the only song we ever want to sing. You're the only song I ever want to sing. You're the only song I ever want to sing. You're the only song, the only song. You're the only song I ever want to sing.
It is Christian Media Spotlight, an all-new edition. I am your host, Joe Neal. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a very special guest joining us. We are the stories and testimonies behind your favorite personalities in Christian entertainment. She is the singer of the crossover hit, the adult contemporary and contemporary Christian hit, Welcome Home. She has a number of other hits besides that. Please welcome at this time our very special guest, Tammy Trent, joining the show. Tammy, how are you?
Hey, Joe, I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day in Nashville, and if you lose me, it's because there's a storm coming through right about now, and maybe
Oh, goodness.
hours blowing. So if I get blown away, you know it's
Oh, no.
a tornado.
Actually, there's reports of a minor tornado here this morning, which is very unusual for this area. I just saw it on one of the news sites this morning. There was a slight Facebook up north of where we are here, and tornadoes just don't happen out here. So, kind of strange.
It's nothing to mess around with. So it's tornado season for us in Nashville here. So I mean, I've been blessed. I have huge windows out my back window, and my home backs up into the woods. And so when we have crazy storms coming through, I'm always watching those trees just blowing to the left and the right, and I am literally praying, coming against it, like send it to somebody else's neighborhood, but not mine. Not today, Satan.
Tammy Trent's with us. Yeah. Tammy Trent is with us here on CMSTV. It's great to have you here. Now, of course, the hit you're probably biggest known for is the hit Welcome Home. It was a crossover success. In fact, I first heard it on adult contemporary radio station here in the area. That's where I first heard it, and then I heard it on contemporary Christian radio stations back then, as when I was fairly new and young in Christ. And why do you think that hit has just impacted and resonated so many listeners the way it has, even still to this day when you perform it?
Wow, Joe, that's such a great question. Actually, I don't think I've really had that one in such a long time. I love that song personally myself. It's so special to me. So it's almost like asking me, why is it so special to you? And I guess for one, it's my signature song. So if people say, what is the song you're most known for, or one of your favorite songs that means the most to you, I always go back to Welcome Home. And I think for me, it's that simple message for me that no matter what I've done in life, how I failed, the mistakes I've made, God's love and God's mercy is never ending. It's steady. He steadies my world. And in particular, like the song is about the prodigal son. So it's talking about wandering and when we walk away from God and when we question our faith and to such a degree that we're just like, I'm done with God. I'm frustrated. The answers aren't coming. Is he even real? All those times when I think as believers, if you're anything like me, you can at least hit one of those seasons some point in your faith, where you just, it's too much and you wonder where God is. And so to have that voice whispering to you constantly, like, you are mine, you belong to me, I will never turn from you, I will always pursue you, I'm completely committed to you. To know that God speaks those kinds of words of life to me constantly brings me great, I think it just brings me great peace, knowing that I'm always captured in the arms of Jesus. So I'm a Christian girl. I was raised in the church and raised in Christian music, so that stuff is pretty steady for me in my life. And it became a crossover, I think, in the late 90s. It was just one of those things that my record company, my Christian label, got picked up by a mainstream label that heard my Christian record and said, hey, let's re-release this song to mainstream and see how it does. And I'm thankful. It was fun. I heard it in a gas station someplace in Indianapolis traveling with my husband at the time, and I was like, oh, I was like buying something and I wanted everybody to stop and listen. Because this might not ever happen again. I will never hear myself on secular radio. But it was a fun moment, and it's a special song to me, and I never, ever go anywhere without still singing that song on the platform.
People still come up to you to this day, like recognizing that song and recognizing you from that song? Is it just one of those things that kind of follows you to this day?
Yeah, I think it does, and I don't mind it. Some of us have those songs where we wish they disappeared. Oh my gosh, I don't want people to recognize the song. But that's a song I love. And so, yeah, when I hit the platform, I do a lot of women's conferences now. And so when I hit the platform, I usually get a chance to start out with at least one song. And Welcome Home is a song I always choose. And it's so cool for me, after all these years later, to hear these women or guys, depending on where I'm at, but especially these women, to hear them singing my song back to me. Man, it's a moment of worship for me. Like, we are worshiping, we are coming together, because worship, to me, worship music comes on in a lot of different ways, and this is the way I worship, with pop music.
Tammy Trent is with us here on Christian Music Spotlight. Actually, our Christian Media Spotlight now. We do more than just music now, CMSTV. You have a couple of new songs out there as well, one of those being At the Foot of the Cross. Tell us about that song and the meaning behind that one.
Actually, I was traveling with the Women of Faith conferences. I want to say this was probably about maybe 6 years ago. And I remember hearing a girl sing this song. I think she was actually part of the worship team of Women of Faith. And she would get up on a Saturday afternoon, and it was probably the most tender time of that conference, where they were speaking life into sort of dry, dead bones. These women that just kind of felt like they needed something. They were desperate for something. And this girl would get up and would sing this song. It was an absolute worship song. And it brought me to my knees every time. And when I say that, I mean, it stirred my heart. It touched me in the deepest places inside my soul. And it always brought me to tears. And I remember at that moment thinking, if I ever did another album, I want to recut that song on an album, because it ministers so deeply to me. And I thought, what a privilege for me to one day have a chance to maybe share this song at one of my events and have a chance to minister to somebody else that might be feeling like I was feeling at that moment when I heard it for the first time. Really, really special song, At the Foot of the Cross. And it's a privilege for me to sing it. It's not a song that I wrote. I wish I had, but it's one of those songs that, not often do you want to sing other people's songs, but it's one of those songs I said, absolutely, I do want to redo the song. It means so much to me.
Now, you mentioned Women of Faith as well. Of course, Women of Faith, as we know it today, kind of ended its run here after about 25 years, not that long ago, and you do multiple different conferences for women and stuff like that besides that. What's your most favorite thing about doing those type of conferences and seeing those lives and making an impact in other women for Christ?
Yeah, I think, Joe, honestly, one of the things I love mostly about women's ministry is that I think these girls just feel like they're in a safe place. Like the kids are at home, their husbands are at home, everything that they just got, everyday stuff that they're going through, they get to kind of just leave it at home. They get in the car and they drive to this event for a day or a day and a half. And I think just the beauty of looking out and just seeing these girls just showing up. They just showed up. And many of them have determined, I'm going to take this mask off. I'm not going to put pressure on myself. I've come with an expectant heart, and I'm just showing up. God, can you do something with the pieces of my life? And, some women are in really great places where they've kind of walked through a storm, and now they're celebrating that storm is at an end in their life. And some of these women are showing up saying, I feel stuck. And I love being in an atmosphere like that, because we're really just standing in the gap for each other. We're just cheering each other on. We're sharpening each other, one story at a time. And so mine is a story that I get to walk up on a platform and share life and share hope through the worst moments of my life. And to be able to look at another friend or sister or brother and to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to be able to get through this, my own circumstances, because somebody else, I'm looking at them, they've gone before me. They're just a little further ahead of me, but they've gotten through this, and that in itself gives me hope. So I love these events. I love these women, and I love being able to look out and know that God is up to something, that He is capable of doing something brand new in our hearts, and to be used in that capacity is a huge honor for me still.
Amen to that. And that's what this walk to me is all about, to be able to use the stories and the testimonies and the stuff that we've been through to make an impact in other people's lives who may have gone through a similar situation, and give them hope and give them encouragement and give them a way out to victory as we've achieved. And so that's it's fascinating. It's terrific that whenever I see those stories that you're able to use that towards his good. And you mentioned being at the gas station with your husband and at the time, and hearing that song, and where that relates. You have a very interesting testimony with regards to that. If you would like, share just a little bit of that testimony for our viewers, and just the way that God has turned what could have been and possibly is a tragic situation around, and has turned something wonderful out of it.
Yeah, I met this kid in my youth group when I was 15 years old. We fell in love. I was able to start dating him when I was 16, and we dated for 7.5 years. They were great years, fun years in my life. He was super cool, super adventurous, very playful, and he loved God, and his faith was newer to him. So it was something he didn't put on. He wasn't used to other Christianese things. So his faith was just really big and bold and cool, and I loved being around him. And fell crazy in love with this guy, and I couldn't imagine a day without him. But I went off to Bible college, and I was there for about a year, and thought, I cannot be away from this guy any longer. So I came back, and we got married. We were married for 11 years, and they were truly, Joe, some of the greatest years of my life. He was the kind of guy that he just knew how to love me. He knew how to make me laugh. He knew how to cover me in prayer. He knew how to be real. He was authentic with me. He was patient. He was all those things to me that a girl longs to have in a relationship. And I don't just say that now, all these years later, but those people that knew Trent, that knew us in our relationship, they believe it. I mean, they're like, everything she says, the way she describes this guy is so accurate. Complete strangers will come up to me and say, I met Trent when, and they'll tell me the story, and I think that's just who he was. He was a steady guy. And I had done a couple albums, and I asked him to manage me on the road full-time in ministry. And he was like, does that mean we have to be together all the time? And I was like, yeah, it does. I'm not sure he was up for it in the beginning, especially the 24 hours a day together thing. But, he came back and said, no, I have no doubt God has called us together to do this together in ministry. And so we took off. I was on my third album, and at the time I'd signed with Sparrow Records in Nashville here. And he started traveling with me full-time in ministry, and we were really having the time of our lives. You know those feelings where you're at that place where you think, gosh, it can't get any better than this. Like, all the stars were aligned. Everything was just perfect. And we went to Jamaica on a mission trip, and I just remember feeling like, after 11 years of marriage and I think 3 albums at that time, I kind of had that feeling of, is this it? Is there more than this, or is this it? Like, God, is there something else that you have for us as a married couple? Like, music doesn't define me. It's just a part of my life. So is there something else? I'm totally open to something brand new, and I'm not sure what that looks like. So that became my prayer, that God would begin to reveal that new season for me. And I remember on my way to Jamaica having that feeling like God was up to something. I just didn't have any idea exactly what it was. So we took off on a mission trip. We vacationed on one side of the island before we were to begin our mission trip on the other side of the island. We traveled from one place to the other on this one day off, and Trent wanted to scuba dive in the Blue Lagoon. Now, when I say the name Trent, people sometimes get confused and think Tammy Trent.
The last name, yeah.
Yeah, so I always up and say, when I signed my record deal, my first record deal in 1995, I took his very first name as my last name. So we were Tammy and Trent Lenderink. But when I traveled in ministry, I was Tammy Trent. Okay, so which I love. I love that he's been such a huge part of this my entire life, watching me grow up in youth group and singing and growing in music. He was always a huge part of this. So there we were in Jamaica. He wanted to go to the Blue Lagoon and scuba dive. So he did that. He jumped into the water, said, I'll be gone for 15 minutes. And when I get back, we'll go do something you want to do. And I sat there, Joe, on the edge of the water, and I waited for Trent to return that afternoon, and he never came back. I called in a dive team that began to search for him, and they found nothing. And I remember being all by myself in this foreign country, and I couldn't reach anybody at home. Everybody was away. So here I was in this foreign country where my whole world had shifted. Everything had changed. And I felt lost. I felt hopeless. I didn't know what to do. And I remember going into this back room all by myself, and I began to lift up my hands toward heaven, and I started to pray. And it was almost like, as a believer, your whole life, like almost like we practice for these moments our whole lives. We learn scripture. We learn about the promises of God. We learn to trust God in the worst and in the best moments of our lives. It's certainly easier to trust God in the best moments, but when the worst moments happen in our lives, where is your faith? Where is everything you practiced your whole life? Is it solid, or is it easily able to crumble? And I think in those moments when our lives are crumbling, man, it's really hard. Like, you are hanging on to faith with all of your might. You're hanging on to Jesus and the promises of Jesus. When your spirit is crushed, you know that he'll be there and make you stronger, and he holds you in the worst moments of your life. Like, all of those things I had to cling to. But everything had shifted. Everything had changed. And I began to lift up my hands, and I started to worship God. I started to sing all these songs that were like a lifeline tying me to hope. And I was desperate, and I felt very alone. And 3 hours went by. The guys came in and said, we can't find Trent. We're going to have to call the search off. It's getting dark. We'll start again in the morning. And they started again the next morning. And I'll never forget getting a phone call at home where I was staying at nearby. And they had said that they had recovered the body of my husband in the Blue Lagoon. And I also got a call saying that my family was grounded on planes all across the country. Not one person could get to me. So it was one of those things where, as I'm getting this news about my family can't make it to me, they've recovered the body of my husband. All of this was happening the morning of September 11th, 2001. So I was
word.
I'm watching the second plane plow into the Twin Towers in New York City, where I'm getting all of this news of everything that's going on around me. So I was just everything was heavy. Everything was confusing. I felt numb. I was shocked. I was trying to put the pieces of this puzzle together, and nothing made sense to me, Joe. Not one thing. And I think it was at that moment when my life was completely falling apart, was at the end of myself. And I think I had a choice to begin to make, that it was like at the end of me was almost the beginning of Christ. Like, Tammy, are you going to let Jesus step into this with you? It wasn't easy, but it was everything I knew to be right. That even if my world was shaking and the rug was being pulled from underneath me, I knew that God's love for me was steady. I knew his commitment to me was steady. That didn't change. Even though everything else was changing around me, I knew enough about my spiritual life and my relationship with Jesus to know that that wasn't about to change. But this was the beginning of a brand new journey of my life that I had to try to figure out and put the pieces together and trust God in the worst moments of my life.
It's just amazing how that story went down. And it's even amazing, again, those places where you're able to just praise him in that storm anyway. And that you're able to just cling on, if nothing else, to the hem of the garment. And that's all you really had at that particular moment, when everything was crumbling down around you, and we're still able to turn it around years later to his glory. Not that the memory of it will be erased, it will be there, but you're able to turn around and make something magnificent out of it. We're able to bring hope and inspiration into somebody else's life who may have been going through something similar or have suffered a similar loss. And so it's just kudos to you for hanging on and for turning it around to his glory, and for staying strong in the midst of all that. It takes an amazing character of Christ to be able to do something like that.
Any one of us that have gone through something and have a story, I think when we get to a place in our lives where we learn to give our own pain purpose, it makes it a lot easier. And when I can get up on a platform and through my own pain give that purpose to speak life and hope into somebody else that's going through something tough, it does give me great purpose, and it helps me to do it another day.
Joe Neal here alongside Tammy Trent with us on an all-new CMS TV, singer of the hit Welcome Home, her signature hit, if you will. Time for a little fun fast facts, a chance where you get to find out a little bit more about your favorite personalities in Christian music and entertainment. Some rapid-fire questions for you. Here we go. You've been doing this quite a while now. Where is one of your most favorite places you've had the opportunity to perform so far or speak?
I would say Italy. Italy is one of those places that I've been to. I cannot wait to go back. Gorgeous. Any place in Europe, when I get a phone call that says, come to Singapore, or come to Spain, or come to Ecuador, I love going overseas. International stuff is so fun for me because it's almost like they're not as saturated with it like we are in America. So the moment I get on a plane and head someplace, they're overwhelmingly grateful, don't want me to leave, and I don't want to leave either. I love international, but Italy and Greece are at the top of my list.
Favorite person or character in the Bible that you find yourself relating to or identifying with along the way when you are doing some reading in your spare time?
Oh my goodness, there's so many, but I was just talking to a friend the other night about David actually, and feeling like I'm much like David sometimes. Like I have such a heart after God, and I fail so many times. And when I heard the heart of Jesus, it's really tender for me, and I can cry so easily, and I take that very seriously. And I know that I've failed so many times, Joe, and I know I keep crawling back and saying, I'm so sorry, God. I want to be stronger in this area of my life. And, I often feel like David, just please look at the heart, Jesus. Please look at my heart.
If we were to peer into your iPod or CD player or music streaming service or multiple different ways to listen to music these days, what might we find Tammy Trent listening to nowadays?
Oh my goodness. I'm like grabbing my phone right now. I'm like, let me be completely honest. What is on my radar here? Oh my goodness. I love pop music. I really, really do. There was an album that I downloaded the other day. I'm going to tell you. It was the girl's name is Yuna. I don't know if it's Yuna, and her album was Chapters. And I think I heard the song someplace. I don't even think she's signed, so she's an indie artist. And I dug the whole record. There was something about it. I'm a melodic girl, melody driven, very pop driven. So you give me just great music, whether it's country, R&B, gospel. I'm pulled in by the melody and the movement, the chord changes. Of course, a lyric is obviously everything we've grown up with, but I have a lot of different music that I put into here, as long as it's not like my mom used to say when we were younger. When my brother would get an attitude, it's probably your music, so get rid of it. Get rid of the bad music in your life. So when my brother was younger, my mom thought it was Petra, so she took his Petra CD.
Oh no! Oh, I love it. Favorite television program that you might have a chance to sit down and enjoy every now and then?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I'm not a huge TV girl. I have to be honest, I'm not a huge TV girl, probably because I travel and I have really weird hours and stuff. I never really had one program that I was really...
Or maybe a favorite movie you've seen recently.
I was going to say, one of my favorite shows sometimes that I'm watching lately is Moms. It's so dumb and ridiculous. It's a show about a mother and her daughter, and they're so dumb. And I think it's like, I don't know if they're rehab people, so I don't know the whole gist of it, but every time I watch it, it makes me laugh because they're just so ridiculous. But man, a movie that's on my list right now is Beauty and the Beast. I do want to go see Beauty and the Beast. And I also just saw, what was that? There was oh my goodness, there was a movie, an Indian movie I just saw recently that was incredible. What was it? I've got so many. Lion. I saw Lion. Someone in the house was listening in on my interview. It was so good. I loved that.
And that was singer-songwriter Tammy Trent here, sharing a few minutes via Skype with us on this edition of CMS TV. We'd like to thank Tammy for joining us here on the program. We have part 2 on our next edition of the show, where we will fill viewers in on what exactly she's up to nowadays. And will she record another album? We'll fill the viewers in on our next show, plus some connectivity information and social media info and where you can find her and so much more. Plus, we'll have another fascinating guest to join us on our next edition of Christian Media Spotlight. Right now, we are going to leave you with her classic music video, a throwback to the late 90s, early 2000s, and her signature hit, Welcome Home. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next time on The Place, where we give you the stories and testimonies behind your favorite personalities in Christian entertainment. It is the award-winning Christian Media Spotlight. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. CMSTV can be seen Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m., Tuesday mornings at 8:30 a.m., and Thursday afternoons at 2:30 p.m. on our flagship television home, DC Media, Channel 22 on the Comcast cable systems in Thurston County, Washington. It can also be seen on select television stations across the Northwest. Plus, view select episodes online at our YouTube page at youtube.com/ChristMusicSpotlight, our online video home for Christian Media Spotlight.